Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Time for another review here at Fanboys Forever. Today we'll be taking a real quick look at the brand new Marvel Legends Venom from the Venom movie with Tom Hardy. So can't wait to have a look at this guy. And let's take a closer look at the packaging. You can see that he actually has a totally different style of packaging than the rest of his wave mates. We actually have packaging that is customized for the movie. You can see there's some cool graphics there, and there's even kind of a shot from the movie on the side. And on the back, we have just a little write-up about Eddie here. Tells you a little kind of synopsis of the film. And a neat little product shot. Same shot of Venom on the side. And that's it. And here's this, if it helps anybody. All right, let's go ahead and have a look. And here we have Venom out of his packaging. And I have to say, so far, I am really liking this guy. So the main thing that I really like about the figure is that I think it does a great job of honoring Venom's very distinct look that was actually in the movie. And I think it does that first and foremost by having what appears to be a very new sculpt. And here I have him just standing straight up. And it's very important to realize that this is just a standard $20 Marvel Legends figure. And that's kind of crazy considering he is so huge. Say, for instance, I thought that the previous Marvel Legends Venom was really large. I'm just going to go ahead and throw him out here. And I know it's kind of premature for comparison or whatever. But you can see that even he pales in comparison to just the sheer size of the brand new movie Venom figure. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with this guy. He's gigantic. But here's the great thing is that's completely accurate to the movie. So it's not like that the scale is unwarranted. I mean, the guy is huge in that as well. Very inhuman looking. Just like in the movie, because they didn't quite have the Spider-Man rights thing figured out. Apparently that is figured out now. He does not have the big symbol on the chest, so there's no spider symbol necessarily. Instead, he has all these kind of white vein sort of things, which is accurate to the film. We do have plenty of other sculpted details as well. So we'll start out with the head. See that looking at the head, we have a very gnarly looking head sculpt. I love how much detail they put into this. As a matter of fact, it's almost to the point to where I wonder if they didn't use some kind of digital model or digital asset to make sure that they got the head right. I love the big kind of prolonged tongue right here. It's very accurate to what we saw in the film. I also like that he has more of the dome-shaped head, which is much more accurate to Todd McFarlane's original design for the character. But there's actually a head that I like even more than this one. All we have to do is just pop this off, and it comes off very easily. And here's the other one. I'm always going to be a sucker for the old classic kind of original looking Venom design that Todd had in those first appearances. And I really think that this head captures it even better than the one with the giant tongue and all that. I may be in the minority there, but I definitely love this one even more because it reminds me much more of that original comic book appearance. I also like the kind of sadistic grin. Really neat. I love the alien kind of nature of the head, that it's not just looking like, you know, a guy with a mask on. So I do like that. Moving on down, we see that there's all sorts of actual sculpted detail all over the chest. Not only are the veins painted on, but they're also sculpted on, so that's actual texture. You can also see that there's kind of an alien texture all over the actual torso. Funny enough, we have a fully sculpted belly button, so not sure if that's in the actual film model. It might be. Same thing with the arms, where there's that kind of texturing going over all of it, and that carries on down to the legs. So if there are reused elements here, they've done a very good job of covering their tracks. Right here, we also have more of those sculpted veins, and through the back, we have all that same tone. I've seen some people say that the proportions were kind of off on this figure. I'm not sure how true that is, because from my memory in the movie, his proportions were very large and almost ape-like. So I do think the big long arms are actually fairly accurate to what we see in the film. And he has these giant hands, of course. We have more of that kind of sculpting we talked about earlier. Goes all the way through. And at the feet, I think these are the most controversial element of the sculpting for everybody. And it's just because they say that the knees go down way too small, and then you have kind of these strange looking feet. I actually think that's fairly accurate to what we see in the movie. He definitely had some very odd looking alien feet. And I think that it does look kind of funny to go to these huge thighs and then go down to these very small ankles. But I do think it kind of propels that alien look that we talked about, that aesthetic. I think that that's what's coming across here. And I think that's what they've done a really good job with. And you can see the proportions are just very inhuman. And it's always very funny in the movie to imagine Eddie Brock being under there somewhere, because wouldn't that mean that he's like floating about like right here or so? He's like suspended in midair, which appears to be what happens in the movie, is he's like lifted up. So just something to keep in mind. We'll switch back to the other head. It's fairly easy. This head appears to almost snap into place a little bit better than the just grinning head. So that's certainly an interesting touch. Although I like the sculpting on just the standard head a little bit better, I do feel like this one's a little more proportional to the body. All right, let's go ahead and look at articulation. So I think the biggest disappointment articulation-wise for me would probably be that Marvel Legends continues to kind of miss the mark when it comes to neck articulation for the heads, because there's no hinge here. It is just literally you can take it left and right all the way around, and you can kind of cock it a little bit, but that's not a whole lot. I really would have, and you can get a little bit of, bringing it up and down, but it doesn't really hold anything. You can see that's it. There definitely should have been a hinge on that neck, because I want to have him down like this and have the head looking up, and that's very hard to do if you get him bent over. So I think they really messed up on not having a hinge there. That's probably my my number one criticism, actually, of the whole figure. On the shoulders, you can see that we get plenty of range. They go way up. We can also go all the way around, and they have some little, almost like little ratchet points right there. We see that this goes all the way around at the shoulder. We do get a double joint at the elbow, and it's quite a nice double joint. We, of course, get a cut. And down here, we get a rotation and a hinge at the hand. And at the diaphragm, we get a full working diaphragm that has plenty of forward movement and plenty of back movement as well. And that's complemented by this down here. We've seen this kind of articulation scheme before with Marvel Legends. And I have to say, it really can't be beat when it comes to the mass-produced market, because you can get the craziest stuff imaginable. Now, imagine if we'd had a hinge on that head to go with that crazy diaphragm movement. That's the part I'm missing. We can even get it to go way to the side, either way. So I think the articulation is a big win on the upper part of the figure. Down here, the legs can go up fairly high, so we can get this. We also get a cut right there at the upper thigh. We can do the splits to a fairly good extent. And we get a double jointed knee, just like this, so he can kick his own butt, just like Todd McFarlane's always talking about. We also get no cut here, but we do get a pretty good little ankle right there. Can go up that much, can go down that much, and there's plenty of ankle rocker movement, so you can get plenty of flexibility. These were a little stuck when I first got the figure out, and as you pose him, they do tend to kind of get stuck in some weird positions sometimes, but the more I'm working with him, the easier it is to just naturally just plop him down. You see, that was the first attempt. He just easily stood up. A very well balanced figure. So I can't really complain actually about any element of the articulation except for the lack of that neck hinge. And man, it would have been great if they could have put that in there. Everything else, though, is fantastic, especially for a $20 action figure. That's huge, might I add. All right, let's talk about accessories just a little bit. He only comes with his interchangeable hands and the interchangeable head. So we already talked about the head a little bit, but we can see that we get two-fisted hands. We can just take these out. They should pretty easily unplug. I've not tried it yet, but okay, a little bit of force there required. And we'll just switch this out. And we'll get the other one. All right. So the other hands maybe looked, I think, maybe slightly large for him. I actually think it improves the look of the figure just a little proportionally to have the two-fisted hands on there. So I actually think that looks a little bit better. And like I said earlier, you do get an interchangeable head. We'll just pop that on there just so that you can see it one more time as well. And like I said earlier, the one thing I'll say about that interchangeable head in a negative sense is that it doesn't really pop on there like the other head does. Like, you don't really hear a pop. I just feel like I'm just kind of pushing it on to the figure. But it does appear to work very well. And I think it looks really nice with the closed fists. So you can get an alternate look. Do I wish it had come with something else? Yes, I do. I wish he'd come with more of the scythe hand that he uses in the movie. I think that would have been terrific. It might have been too much to ask, but I really would have liked to have seen the half Tom Hardy kind of face that he does where the symbiote kind of peels back in the movie. That would have been a terrific accessory. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that this guy is huge. As a matter of fact, I'll take my gaudily colored ruler right here and I'll show you exactly how big. If he's hunched over in more of a naturalistic stance, he is over 7 inches tall. And if I actually take him and stand him up fully, so there he stood up to his maximum height. And you can see that he is just about 7.5 inches tall. And I think that's kind of unbelievable for a $20 figure that's just a standard Marvel Legend. It's true that he doesn't come with any kind of Build-A-Figure piece, so I suppose that that's where we're making up the difference in price. But you'd be lying to yourself if you said that this wasn't an absolute great deal for the amount of money you're paying. And here's another comparison that you may not have seen coming. A few years ago, there was an exclusive version of the Blu-ray of the movie, and it actually included a 3 3/4 scale figure from the film. And I remember I was kind of giddy about this because I thought this may very well be the only figural representation we get of this movie. And sure enough, while it was out, I mean, this was it. I never did open it because it's just such a novelty. They even have this bizarre looking, almost vintage style, like Star Wars card, just says Venom on the back. But I think this is really funny to see them side by side, especially if I switch out the head here. Let's pop the one with the tongue back on. There we go. And you can see that they're quite a pair. They're certainly representative of the same character. This one's a lot more hulking and kind of hunched over. And of course, you can pose this one to look a little bit more like that, I suppose. But it's still pretty neat. It's all about the value. And I think that this guy packs the value. I would have loved to have seen a neck hinge. That would have been great. So the head could have done some other things. But other than that, the articulation is superb. I think that he has all of the standard articulation that we've come to expect from Marvel Legends, and actually does several things a little bit better than a whole lot of standard Marvel Legends. Also, the details, I think, are right on. To my eye, he is a great-looking representative of that movie design. Of course, your mileage will vary based on how much you enjoyed the movie. For me, this isn't a review of the movie, but I really liked the movie. I thought it was really funny. I don't think that it might have been exactly the tone a lot of us were looking for, but taken as its own thing, I actually thought Tom Hardy was very funny in the movie and really enjoyed it. And of course, the action, I think, was pretty well right on. Of course, we're looking forward to Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. And of course, it's been delayed like every other movie on the planet. So we certainly hope that we'll see that sooner rather than later. So overall, would I suggest that you can run out and pick up this Venom? Of course I would. As a matter of fact, usually with the main character kind of figures that ship more than one to a case, like Venom, for these waves, usually those are pretty plentiful. But I'll tell you, I really think this time that it'll be one of the figures that will actually be a little bit harder to get. I think you'll end up seeing a lot of the other symbiote figures kind of just languish on the shelves because people are going to grab this guy. And if you're like me, you're not necessarily a completist when it comes to Marvel Legends, but you do grab certain characters, and this is a figure that I wasn't sure that we would ever get necessarily because of all the rights stuff. Now that it's been cleared up, it's really cool to actually have this. Alright guys, that'll do it for our review of the brand new Marvel Legends Venom figure from the Tom Hardy film. Really hope that you've enjoyed your time with us here today. Of course, we definitely appreciate each and every view we get, each and every comment we get means the world because honestly, we just love to talk to you. So of course, drop us a line. Of course, we would appreciate any subscriptions that we can get. And we sure do thank everybody for supporting us in the last little bit and helping us to reach our 1,000 subscriber goal. That meant a lot to us. All right, guys, God bless each and every one of you. Be safe out there. And until next time, I'll see you on Fanboys Forever.